Hello, hello, hello. This is the FIFA Club World Cup podcast coming at you with a slightly new look set of presenters with myself, Gary Stryker, and an old friend of ours, Manu Veth. Manu is one half of the Gegenpressing podcast, a Bundesliga podcast, and also the head of content for Transfermarkt. He finds himself currently up in the Pacific Northwest, I believe in Seattle, as you've been going to quite a few games, Manu. This is episode 10. The Cooligan is traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast, so he cannot be joining us today, unfortunately. So Manu will be a more than suitable replacement as well. Welcome, Manu. How are you?
Yeah, good. Getting tired.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of football, a lot of games, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. It's getting to the stage of the tournament. I've covered a few tournaments, World Cups and European Championships, and I find towards the end of the group stages that's the most grueling part. And I'm gonna go home actually after this game up to Vancouver Island. To regroup and then see how the rest of the tournament plays out and whether I'm gonna head out east or not. All depends on who's gonna be there. But it's getting like I find this always really interesting, especially like at World Cups, like the real World Cups. I find the group stages the most exhausting, and then when you get to the knockout stage, you have days off, like you almost find yourself on a holiday. I remember when I covered the World Cup in Russia, I went down for a quarterfinal to Sochi, Russia. I think it was Croatia against Russia, the game that Russia got knocked out. And there was 2 days between that and the next game. So I just booked myself into the seaside hotel, and I was like, all right, the next 48 hours, I can't be seen or heard from anyone. But you don't have that at this stage of the tournament. There's like 3 games a day, and now it's 2, but it's 4, right? It's just like, this part is I always find this the hardest part of the tournament, even though it is really just the group stage.
Yeah, I agree. We were discussing this yesterday as well with Devin, who was one half of the Soccer Sharps who joined us as well. And there is this like tournament fatigue that is getting in. It's kind of the marathon part where you're sort of fighting through the treacle. And we did determine the best antidote to this situation is just more beer. Just keep watching and more beer and just keep going. Yeah.
You say that I have to go to stadiums and work, so like this is not always an option for me here.
It's a creative stimulant as well that helps the writing and the analytical side for you.
Yeah, this is my one complaint about stadiums over here and in Europe. Like if you go to Bundesliga games, they will always have a fridge or locker with beer for when like after the game. Okay. And even at the Nations League final, they had like a fridge and they had like a handwritten sign on it, and it said like for after the game, and it was just a fridge full of beer for all the journalists. And then the lock disappears after 90 minutes, and everyone just sits there, writes their articles, drinking a beer. Obviously provided by sponsors, but still like. Where's that here? That this is a lacking element.
You didn't have that in the press room, is that right? It's not as. What has the experience like been for you, out of curiosity, on the press side of things in the access?
The access has been good. Like it's a little bit different than it used to be. Like players used to just walk through this. So traditionally, how it was at big tournaments is the players would all come out of the dressing room, and on their way to the bus, they had to go through almost these corridors where journalists are lined up, and then they have to walk through us to get to the bus, which means we can flag them down, right? And then they can choose to speak or not to speak, and sometimes that can be frustrating because like you're waiting for this one player where you need the one quote for to finish your story because you're sent there to do a feature. Happened to me at the Euros of Benjamin Šeško. I waited for him, and then he was at doping control, and of course 2 hours later he comes out and he's like, was so pissed he didn't want to speak to me. So I'm like sent here only do a story on him. Like I didn't care about like either of the teams I played. It was just for him. But it's okay. This coach then stopped and talked to me about the player, so that still worked. Now, like what they're doing here is they have these podiums, and each club brings out 3 to 4 players, and then they have to speak to you.
Okay. But you don't get to request who, they just basically nominate and allocate.
Nominate, allocate, but it's actually in some ways better because you get a good 5 to 10 minutes out of them. And Atletico, for example, gave us Gallagher because he speaks English, and then he only spoke English. He didn't speak Spanish, which was great for English press because we pretty much got an exclusive with him. Achraf Hakimi was available after the PSG game, fluent in many languages, fantastic. The Italian guys, I went to a media event yesterday out at the Seahawks training facility with Inter Milan, and they gave us 3 players. They gave us Carboni, Esposito, and Damian. They understood English, but only answered in Italian, which is fine. It's a easy to understand language. So yeah, I mean, the access has been really good. They're really trying to make sure that we get the players. We get to speak to players and get to cover this tournament. Also, shout out to the Seattle Sounders, who have been incredible hosts. This is their stadium. They're doing a fantastic job to make sure that all the players are available, that when you speak, the media staff is on site all the time. When you have questions, they answer it like very, very, probably the most professional of all the teams here. So shout out to them. So yeah, the access has been good. Some things are weird, but that's FIFA for you. So but yeah, generally speaking, pretty good.
Okay, wonderful. We were discussing this last night as well, is how what normally used to happen in the year before a World Cup as well, there would be sort of kind of like test tournaments as well in the sort of environment to sort of stress test it. I remember this, the Confederations Cup, right?
I used to cover that as well. I've been to the Confed Cup.
They used to do that. And so
the
we were
access
discussing
for that was even better because
well, it's smaller and just it was a bit more of a sort of a boondoggle in American terms, wasn't it? That's one bit of fun, right? But whereas what's interesting is we were discussing about what the consistent theme that comes from some of the players as well. I know Thomas Müller was saying it. I know Jude Bellingham was saying it. It's like the grass, and they're talking about the grass. And of course, because they're using predominantly American football stadiums and there's traditional turf, and they're bringing in the grass as well. So, but we were saying is this is probably sort of a Confederation Cup dry run as well for the World Cup, where they are stress testing facilities, communications, transport, logistics, all of those kind of things as well, right? So yeah, that's
it's actually really interesting you mentioned that, because like I spoke to a few Sounders players about the grass that they put in at Lumen, and they loved it, and they get to play on it one more time for the MLS game on the weekend, and they're saying like, oh, we wish this could be just permanent. It's just so much better. And then out at the Seahawks training facility, they put in grass because they train on turf, right? Because the Seahawks play on turf, so they put out like this beautiful carpet. And I have a close friend who works high up for the Seahawks, and the two of us were able to catch up yesterday, and she explained to me all the work that they had put in to host these teams, and they're really eager to get a national team. So they just rolled out the red carpet, or the green carpet in this case, to show that teams are really impressed. But it's exactly that, some of these facilities, like it's not the stadiums because they're set, but some of these training facilities really try to leave a positive impression, because that is their ticket to potentially land a national team, right?
That's it. Interesting. They're going for it. Wow. If only the Cooligan was here, he would be geeking out on grass as well. So I'm going to ask this question on his behalf. Do you know what type of grass they were using, out of curiosity, at Lumen Field?
Oh my God, I should have asked. It's usually Kentucky green, isn't it?
It's Kentucky green, I think. I just wanted to confirm as well. But yeah, as I say, but we had some complaints.
I'm going to double check and get back to you. But I know that in North America, they usually use Kentucky green, and it's a little bit of a mix.
Yeah. Okay. I know there's some synthetic mix as well, so they can it doesn't wear down, and some of these things as well. But again, interesting that the German players, particularly, well, when I say the German players, Bellingham, who's obviously played in Germany at Dortmund, and then obviously, and that's Jude, not Job. And then Thomas Müller was complaining about it as well. So I wonder, just again, the ball moves differently on this sort of the Kentucky blue, I imagine.
I also think it's better here because we had rain in between, and they like. In Europe, the stadiums have, like, we're geeking out totally here, but like, bear with me. In Europe, they have the automatic water systems, right? Whereas so many of the stadiums usually have synthetic. So like the sprinkler systems are covered up with the grass and they can't pop up. So they go over the field with these big hoses and water it, and it's just not as good of a job. But because in Seattle we had rain in between, and it's always kind of like humid. It's the Pacific Northwest, right? Like we have 5 days of sunshine, and then we have a day of rain, and everything is just green. It's the Emerald State, so the field is just naturally in a really good condition. And like everyone I talked to, Milan, PSG, Atletico, they all were like, "This is amazing." So
yeah, wonderful. Wow. Cooligan, if you were here, it'd be fun. You would be missing out. I know he was going to catch up on this, so just know that you are missed, and what a time you took to travel.
We're going very inside baseball here, like really close, behind closed doors, what's going on.
Yeah, I have in previous episode had to cut him off once he starts getting into the grass conversation, and here we are. So anyway. Okay, well, let's move on from grass and other technical geeking sessions as well, and let's talk to the games as well. So we recorded yesterday after the Bock Boca, we were still watching the Boca game because of obviously the weather delay as well. And obviously Auckland got a wonderful draw and cool $1 million as well to put into their development of sort of future performances and players and facilities, which is wonderful. And then, of course, we moved on to the evening games as well. Yeah. And I believe I was, as most people probably know, I am a big Chelsea fan. So obviously in the Stryker household, we were absolutely had the Chelsea Tunis game on as well. I was very relieved to see that Nicholas Jackson wasn't anywhere near the field and there wasn't a threat of him coming on, thankfully, as well, because he got suspended and got Liam Delap sort of to play. And Chelsea ended up winning 3-0. I don't know if you sort of had a look at the stats. I know obviously you're probably sort of also doing some parental things and sort of, I don't know if you got to see this game, Manuel, but did you see any stats or anything that jumped out at you about this game?
Well, I think this was pretty much the expected result, right? And it's also interesting because this group was completely wrapped up, wasn't it? I think Chelsea could have still gone out.
I Tunis beat them. If there was a shock delivered to Tunis, yes.
Yeah, because like it's head to head now. That's a tiebreaker, right? Flamengo was locked in first place, so the result. I mean, the result didn't surprise me that much, and it was the expected dominance that Chelsea had, although only 1.48 xG. So pretty efficient in front of
over delivered. Yeah, so they over delivered in that sense.
They did over deliver, but I mean they also had 16 shots on goal, so there's that.
There is that. I will say that Tunis's goalkeeper did look he looked like he had a problem. He was dropping a lot of simple balls and having them. And then Liam Delap's goal and also the first goal from, it was Tosin, I think it was. They basically, I don't know if it's sort of like the keeper's left. He just sort of stood there and watched and didn't even dive for them as well. They looked very, very easy goals and comfortable goals to sort of tuck in. So Chelsea comfortably through. And then Tyreek George, who was a young player who came on and scored quite a good goal and was quite efficient as well. So that was again, as you say, no surprises there. As a Chelsea fan, there is always a fear in the back of one's mind that what happens if Chelsea don't turn up and they have their off day, because they do seem to be coming consistently sort of in and out of form. It was good to see Chelsea getting a result there. And then on the other side of the fixture as well, there was the LAFC against Flamenco game. I was surprised by this one, I have to say, that there was basically, I mean, it looked like LAFC went up 1-0 and then instantly Wallace Yang came back and sort of got them in and nearly scored again as well. I don't know if you have any sort of thoughts or take on this Flamenco game.
It's kind of of the three MLS teams, LAFC kind of surprised me the most negatively. I know that they have a point where Sounders didn't, but you look at the Sounders group. I mean, they had the Copa Libertadores champion, they had Atletico Madrid, and they had the Champions League winner. I mean, that's a hard group.
That was a hard group, yes.
And they were competitive in all three games. Like they were on it. They played very well in all three games. What they lacked was a true number 9. They just don't have it. And they admitted, I spoke to the players afterwards, they're like, look, we just don't have a guy who can finish chances for us. And that was the difference. And that's correct, LAFC just, that was a fairly easy group, quote unquote. Tunis should have been 3 points. Like Flamengo, yes. they were competitive there. Chelsea, as you said, you don't know who you're getting. What you're going to get. And like, yeah, okay, like on paper, it looks like they have 1 point out of 3 matches. And like, yeah, it's an MLS team. But when you watch the actual games, it's the games where they're disappointing me the most. Does that make sense? Like, it's not the results necessarily, but it's the way the performances. Because like the Sounders, okay, 0 points, just the 2 goals. But look at who they played. And
I agree. They should have got points. The one thing I will say is all of the Brazilian teams have surprised me in how they have performed, how the Brazilian teams have yet to really sort of, again, I think most of them all finishing top of their group. I think there was one instance where they didn't finish top. I think no losses, no Brazilian losses so far. They've either won or draw as well, which has been really impressive. I know there's the argument middle of the season and all of those things. But
it's interesting that you bring that up, because there is this narrative out there that since last June, Brazilian teams have played more games than their European counterparts. So this is true. I think SofaScore released the stat. I'm just looking for the stat. So at Transfermarkt, I was like, That's an interesting stat. So I asked our data guys to crunch the numbers on the players that have played the most games since June, right? And they actually come up with a very interesting statistic. I think so. Out of the top 50 of the players that have played the most games, there is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Brazilian players.
Okay.
The player of the most games since last June is actually Julian Alvarez from Atletico de Madrid.
Okay.
He's played 78 games.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Next is Federico Valverde with 74.
Yes.
Luka Modric.
Okay. Wow.
Luka Modric, 73 games.
Okay.
The PSG guys, Fabian Ruiz.
Yes.
Bradley Barcola, 73 games.
Yes.
The Benfica guys, Atakoglu and Otamendi, 72 and 71.
Yeah.
So like by far, like 80% of the players in that top 50 are European based.
Are there? So there is that advantage as well. I think the other hidden factor in that data as well is obviously the time when the off season goes in as well, right? As well, because you can also look at
the Brazilian teams had a break in the middle that the Europeans didn't. Like the Europeans have played these 78 games and there isn't a break. So like I know there is the stat out where they're like put this up, but what you have to keep in mind, Botafogo this year in their calendar year had 36 games. The player of the most games is their goalkeeper, whose name is just escaping me, who is John Victor, who is also on this list of 67 games. But Botafogo have played 36 games this year, and John Victor's played 27 of them.
Okay.
And he's the player of the most games. So even their goalkeeper had 9 games off. Yes, the Brazilian teams play a lot.
But not as
not
many.
necessarily their players do, because there's a lot of turnover. There's more players going from Brazil to Europe, and then it's a different season rhythm. Their main transfer window is in January, so there's a big turnover then. And then a lot for the regional competitions. They use a lot of youth players.
Yes, that's interesting. Okay.
So I just wanted to because I've seen this narrative out there, and I'm like,
it can be,
but it's not true.
It definitely can be interpreted in different ways as well. And if you just look at it on the surface, and as you say, the rhythm and the timings and when is the breaks happening and those kind of things, I get. The other thing that's interesting from my side is it's always before this tournament, you'd always compare Brazilian players. Let's say a young Brazilian player. Let's take Estevao, for example, right? Young talent. Okay. Chelsea have picked him up. Now, the question often is, how will they perform and will they be able to adapt into the European leagues, obviously the Premier League and Estevao's situation, if he goes to Chelsea, that is. But what this tournament has brought together is, instead of can Brazilian players or South American players adapt and fit inside of European style systems, is what are the systems up against? How is a Brazilian team going against a European and then you actually get to see sort of like the two systems, the two styles of play and the two approaches coming up against each other. And again, I appreciate the sort of the side about fatigue and obviously length of the season, but this, it does sort of bring home, and I know the Brazilians will be very proud to say this, which is the Brazilian football is better. Look at it. Look at all the players and look at the results as well, right?
I mean, we see this with the World Cup all the time too, when the European countries go out early, and then from the quarterfinal onwards, it's all the European
South
countries.
Americans.
So let's wait how the tournament plays out. But the fatigue thing is when Europeans say there is a fatigue issue here. The underlying numbers, the ones that are just not the naked how many games have the clubs played, but when you go to the actual player sides, then it's actually the European players have way more. And then you look at guys like Joshua Kimmich, for example, who's in that list very high up. He's played 68 games. That includes the national team games, right? The Nations League final was 10 days before the World Cup. And there was a really interesting article in one of the big German publications, and they interviewed a top doctor, and they said players should have 4 weeks off between seasons, at least. That should be the minimum standard. In North American sports, it's up to 3 months.
Yeah, well, of course, it's and the way they structure it, it's different. The other interesting thing as well is the standard complaint that comes in summer tournaments. I know the last World Cup was in Qatar, is the weather. the weather. And it's always the Europeans complaining about the weather. And of course, like, obviously us both being Europeans as well, but we're now living in sort of North America.
Yeah, but 104 Fahrenheit is too high.
It is a lot. I agree with you. It is a lot. But the thing is, everyone has to play in the same conditions as well.
That's true.
Now appreciate, yes, the Brazilians are probably a little bit more adapted to it and sort of used to it because, the weather is better down there as well and they're used to it. But this is the other interesting thing. Every single World Cup, I can always remember, there's always complaints about the weather. And look, FIFA have, added in the cooling break and the hydration break. I get it. But it's a summer tournament. This is what it is. It's different tournaments, right?
I think what the problem is though, like I watched the Bayern game yesterday against Benfica, and Bayern made it really clear that both teams had to struggle with the heat. And they, on paper and the way the game should have played out, Bayern should have at least gotten a draw there. I suspect that they're actually quite happy with the result because it gets them an easier way through now, at least at first. But both teams really struggled, and the problem is, so when you have these kind of temperatures in Europe, all stadiums in the major European leagues, whether it's England, France, Germany, Spain, I don't think so, and Italy maybe not either, but in the big leagues, all the modern facilities all have to be completely covered. Right?
Yeah.
And
so it's not like the Rose Bowl where it's just open air with 100 degrees blaring down on you, right?
I've been to Charlotte in the summer. It's all concrete. 104 Fahrenheit, you cannot escape it. There is no shade. You're just baking, literally baking in the sun. And there's a difference between like playing at 40 degrees Celsius in an open concrete bowl versus like a stadium that has shaded areas, maybe temperature, like to bring the temperature down. And the other thing I think is going to be a huge issue in the big European stadiums, they don't have to interrupt the games for lightning strikes because they usually have lightning rods. Here it's like within 5 miles and you're screwed. I mean, and I think that's
New Jersey, Charlotte, there's all the Nashville, they've all had some weather delays as well, right? Yeah, they've all had weather delays. Yeah.
So like, I have no idea how they're going to cope with that next year. It's a huge issue.
It's just a factor of the conditions and the environment, and it's going to happen. And this is, obviously, I live in Texas, and when these big old Texas storms come through, I mean, the whole house shakes, and I mean, you get these big storms coming through when it happens, right? These electric storms rolling through. So, you can definitely see. I think if we can just move on, even just looking at today's games, right? As you say, that Dortmund-Ulsan game. I mean, Dortmund obviously sort of managed to get their sort of 1-0. Sort of, they look quite comfortable. I don't think there was any risk of them obviously losing. They dominated, but
the XG was like 3.8, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, look at that: 28 shots, 11 of them on target, right? And they only scored one as well. So they completely dominated all the statistics. But you were saying as well how they even Dortmund today just looked slow and lethargic and just struggled a little bit.
It was 94 Fahrenheit in Cincinnati today. And that's, again, like that's maybe a question that FIFA will have to answer. Do we move the tournament 2 months earlier? Right.
They're not strangers to moving tournaments around and messing up schedules and calendars as well. I don't think they will at this stage, perhaps, but
it's a little late. But the same arguments that you have in Qatar apply here.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference is in Qatar, they did telegraph it and moved it 4 years plus. They communicated on the dates as well, and they had to schedule. I don't think that will be happening, and I think,
it is an interesting one because it's only going to get hotter now. We're moving into July and August.
And everything's moving to the East Coast as well, so you're going to get a lot more humidity as well, isn't it? They're all doing that Eastern Seaboard.
You almost wonder if you would have been better off to stay, like play more games in Seattle or Portland and use the cooler climate.
That's about the only. Well, I mean, you can argue for the World Cup coming up. Obviously, they are using Canada as well, so they're built more. It will be a broader because there's going to be more. 64 teams in the World Cup next year, I think. Is that right?
Is it 48 first?
It's 48, and then it's going to 68 afterwards. So but look, these things are going to happen, and we're just going to have to adapt to it and just keep on with it. Whether it's weather delays, whether it's heat and humidity factors as well, and so sunscreen, shade, and hydration is the key, right? And more beer, right? So
more beer. More beer for the fans because we all know what happens when you drink beer and bake in the
sunshine. Indeed. Speaking of more beer, I was at the Qatar World Cup, and I have to say they stopped. If you remember, just before they announced that they're not going to be serving alcohol in the stadiums, and of course, I was like, "Oh, no beer! This is ridiculous! How can you do this?" It was actually really a different kind of experience as well because you get a lot more adrenaline overflowing. You get into the games a little bit more as well. So it was definitely either way, beer or no beer as well. I think we're all winners and we get to see it. So yes. So just looking then, Manu, at these games. So obviously we saw Dortmund, Ulsan. I don't think that was any surprise.
No.
The game I had on and I was watching was the Sundowns against Fluminense. Obviously, I have a little bit of a sort of portion of my life I lived in South Africa, so there was a bit of sort of me really was supporting the Sundowners here and hoping they could get it. I know they got their win, and then they obviously got their draw. Unfortunately, they didn't have quite enough, and they would have gotten over Fluminense and qualified had they were able to snatch a goal. But yeah, did you catch any of these games or have any?
I did watch the
this?
Dortmund game, not the Fluminense game. I just, I thought Dortmund it was so dominant. Over Ulsan. The only thing that was lacking was the goals, and that leaves you vulnerable. Ulsan didn't create much, so like it didn't really feel like there was ever a danger. But I think Gorassi had 3 big chances in the first half. And then it's Svensson of people that gets the goal. But I think Dortmund can be really happy with the way they performed, but I don't think they can be happy with the goal scoring output. But it was really interesting. Like I did post-match coverage on the Bayern Benfica game. I don't have the quotes yet from Dortmund, so I'm going to use a quote from Thomas Müller, and he said, "It really doesn't fucking matter where you end up in the group as long as you qualify."
It does. But however, the brackets are changing as well. Those traditional ones that you were thinking, okay, so you thought Bayern were going to go through, and again, as a Chelsea fan, I was like, oh god, Chelsea are going to get Bayern if they finish second, and then obviously they sort of Benfica shocked them. So,
but I think Bayern just didn't want to go to Charlotte again.
Yeah, this is true.
They actually said that. Company said the best thing about this result is that we don't have to play in Charlotte again. I think they really didn't like it there. I think the grass was horrible, and I think I think too from the feedback I'm getting, because Miami is completely covered, it doesn't get quite as hot inside the stadium.
Yeah, it's not completely covered, but the stadium part, so basically the grass is there. The acoustics at Hard Rock Stadium. Amazing. I went to 2 Boca games there, and I went to the Real Madrid game, and just those Boca fans were just a value add.
I think to Bayern, they have the base in Orlando. It allows them to just stay in Florida.
Just stay there, and then they can get comfortable.
They didn't seem too unhappy about the result, which makes me kind of suspicious.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I think as long as you get through the groups and obviously don't sort of, again, I think they've all, and then what is the financial bonus as well for getting through to the qualifiers as well? So they've all been kicked in another 7.5 as well, which has been great.
Bayern is at 45 million now.
Wow, that's it. Yeah, so that's Well, that's for Bayern. It will help and be beneficial as well. I would have loved to have seen someone like a Sundowns or one of the lesser teams get through and sort of pick it up.
Inter Miami is a good example, right? They get 9.5 from qualifying. Then they got 4 million. They won 1, drew 2.
They won 1, drew 2. Yeah.
4 million. Yeah. So 4 million. So that's 13.5 and then another 7.5. So they're at
21. Yeah.
21 million. That's a massive amount of money for an MLS team.
Well, for an MLS team, of course, I mean, they do have quite a big wage bill, obviously, in Messi with their designated players, and obviously
almost
that will help
Messi 1 year.
It's his year's wages as well, so it's been beneficial for them as well, right? So it has been good in that sense. So yes, okay. And then just looking through to this evening, obviously we have the Ura Red Diamonds against Monterrey and Sergio Ramos and his gang, and then I believe you're also going to Inter River. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's a big game.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a River Plate game before?
No, only here.
Okay, you've been to one already, have you? Those fans, fans are special.
They were great. Also shout out to Uro Red Diamond fans. They are fantastic. They've been great. Fantastic. Yes. But that stadium, that was one of those games where the stadium only was 15,000, 20,000, but it was so loud because both the River Plate and Uro Red Diamond fans were just like the full 90 minutes. Yeah. And we went down to the oceanfront this morning to take a little bit of a walk, and there was so many River Plate fans already out and about. Many arriving with their suitcases, so it makes me think that they're descending to Seattle from all over America. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be really good, and it's a game that matters. Inter Milan against the River Plate. It's going to be a really good big fixture.
They both have to win here because you'd expect Monterrey to probably get the points against the Diamonds. So let's just assume that Monterrey win and that puts them on 5 points. And then now, obviously, if both teams draw, then it's a difference. And then goal difference, they should be okay. But then again, Monterrey could sort of smash a couple past them and sort of it could go down to goal difference as well here. So these teams will both be up for this. And again, someone is going to get embarrassed here and get kicked out early here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I went to, as I said, I went to Seahawks training facility yesterday to speak to some Inter Milan players, and they're taking this very seriously.
Yeah.
They were all emphasizing that this is a game that they have to win, and they're taking River Plate really seriously. They all understand that the Mastantuono,
Yeah.
was
The
heading
Real
to
Madrid wonder kid. Yeah.
Real Madrid wonder kid, and I got to see him live against Red Diamonds, and he's going to be quite a player.
Yeah, he is.
Really really good talent, really good. You know, gives Real Madrid yet another weapon. And they all emphasized how difficult it is going to be to play against him. So they expect a loud atmosphere tonight as well. So the Inter Milan players are taking this very serious. They know they need a result.
They know that. Yeah. What my feeling is, Inter will probably get over the line here and probably better River here.
I
I
mean,
think.
you saw it against Red Diamonds, right? Where
Yeah.
they almost lost, and I already had like my story written. I'm like, oh, sensational result for the Japanese team, and then Lautaro Martinez happened.
Yeah, and then Martinez comes in as well, and yeah, he scores and did the business as well, right? So yeah, it is. How can I ask? I know we're sort of bumping up on time here as well. I know we talked about the River Plate wonder kid. Is it Mau? I can't. His name is
Mastantuono.
Mastantuono, right?
Mastantuono. I think it's Mastantuono.
Yeah.
Say it really quick, then it's right.
That Argentinian wonder kid who's on his way to Real. We all know that one, the 17-year-old, right? Yes. Can I ask what other what other young players have sort of surprised? Because always in these tournaments, there's these young kids who sort of come and put their heads up above and sort of everyone gets their attention as well. Which ones have impressed you and caught your eye so far, would you say?
Oh, wow. Who I really like is Obert Vargas from Seattle Sounders.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
He's born in Anchorage, Alaska. And he's been in the Sounders system for a long time. He represents Mexico. There's been a lot of talk about him potentially going to Liga MX. I talked to some people at the Sounders, and they're like, no, he has European ambitions, and they're asking prices over 10 million euros.
Wow. Okay.
And I think they are going to get it. So Obert Vargas is definitely someone to keep an eye on. I'm trying to think as well. I mean, a little bit older. I like Igor Jesus quite a lot from Botafogo. I think I mentioned him in the last podcast.
You did, yes. Yeah.
Phil Esposito is Pio. I think Pio Esposito, not Phil Esposito. Phil Esposito was a great forward playing for the Philadelphia Flyers back in the 70s in hockey. Pio Esposito. Let me just double check his name. I actually liked him as well. Tall, physical striker from Inter Milan. Quite impressive. I think he's already a little bit older. Oh, he's still only 19, so there you go. He qualifies as a talent. Francesco Pio Esposito. I think he just goes by Pio Esposito.
Okay.
I was impressed by him. He looks like a player who can really have a great career. I also spoke to Valentin Carboni from Inter Milan. He's only 20. He's another guy to keep an eye on. These are just the guys that I've seen close up.
That caught your eye. Yeah.
Caught my eye. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, those are really, really good picks as well, Manu. Because those are not the traditional ones. I know there's the big one coming into it was Estevao. Obviously, we mentioned him. I have to say, you can see why Chelsea have gone for him and picked him up as well. But he did disappoint a little bit as well. I have to say, I don't think he's all that just yet. I think he's still quite young and quite small and nimble, and I think he still needs a bit of sort of growing. I think it will be, if he goes to Chelsea this season, it'll be too soon. I know I've mentioned that, and I don't want to keep repeating myself there. I do like, however, is it Rodrigo Mora, the Porto sort of number 10, he's sort of in that sort of front left position. He really caught my eye. I really did like the look of him. He looked very good. But that's interesting as well. But okay.
Well, the Joe Bellingham, I think, has been having a pretty good tournament for Dortmund.
Yes, he has as well. Yes, it's interesting that he's always going to be in the shadow of his brother as well, right? And he's always going to be compared. I know he's doing a similar-ish pathway, having gone to Dortmund as well, just like Jude did as well. But we'll see how he sort of shakes up there, right?
And this is a player that I haven't seen that often yet, but I can see now why there was so much hype about him last summer. Is Desiree Doué?
Yes,
the PSG winger.
Right?
This is the first time I had like a real chance to really watch him live, and I was like, Yeah,
and he's like 19 or something. He's like young as well. Yeah, he's
really 20 years old now.
Yeah,
It's just, I mean, that's the thing with that's just general thing with PSG. Like there's so many good players.
Yeah,
they had Seni Mayula starting for them, 19-year-old striker. And like, why not? Because they just throw in another talent, right?
And Dembele still hasn't even. I think Dembele's even started yet, has he? Or did he start?
Yeah, he's so.
He started.
We were able to ask Luis Enrique about that, and he's just not fit yet.
He's not fit. What
yeah.
is it? Did him and Kylian Mbappe go and eat some American McDonald's or something like that? And this American food system has got them because Mbappe's had gastroenteritis and lost 5 kilos. I understand.
Wow, did he lose 5 kilos?
Wow,
brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't have gone to the buffet.
It's that American food system. We all know it. Hey?
Oh,
it's not
Lord.
Europe. Yeah, no baguettes from the gas stations, right?
No, don't do that. I think Dembele has had an injury. He's been training, but Luis Enrique says he's like, he's fit and maybe he could play. It would be a risk. Also, you guys know me. I never take risks, so he's not playing.
Yeah, he doesn't. when he's got obviously all of those guys, and he's got sort of Kavicha and obviously those guys up front as well. It does make you wonder as well, that French forward line. If you just look at it, I know we're looking into the World Cup here, but that French forward line then of Dembele, Mbappe, Doué, Barcola, and I mean also as well, and then there's a couple of other guys as well scattered around the place that they've got like 6 or 7 really. The Thuram, one of the Thuram brothers as well. They're going to be dangerous going forward as well for sure.
Totally.
For sure. Wonderful. And then just quickly, Manu, while we're here, obviously just looking at the brackets as well now. So you've got Palmeiras, Botafogo. It's going to be great to see one of the Brazilian teams get through to the quarterfinals, although there are 4 of them. And then Benfica, Chelsea. So we'll see one of the Brazilian teams against Benfica or Chelsea, which will be interesting. We'll find out who Fluminense are going to be playing tonight. Looking at that PSG Inter, I'm assuming you probably want to say it's you don't see Inter progressing past PSG.
I mean, it is Messi against a team he didn't like to play for.
Yes, this is true. But Messi and the Miami boys did look very tired the other night, if you noticed that against...
Towards the end of the game, they really faltered.
I think the cramp was really kicking in. They were all sort of stopping as well. And once you get past Messi, Suarez, the game has lost him. I know he scored quite a good goal, but that was his first goal.
That's Suarez goal, though.
It was good. It was very classic Suarez.
He rolled back 10 years there, hey?
He did. But it's been a while since he scored a decent goal. And I've been saying this. I think the game has left him and he should probably think about stepping down. But not yet. He won't. And then Flamenco Bayern, I'm going to be going to this one. I got tickets to this game, so I'm looking forward to this one as well to see. Again, this is where we really get to challenge the systems of how do Bayern play against, or the Brazilians play against a top European team, and see what happens there as well. Because that was I don't think that Boca game for them was not much of a contest, and the fact that Boca couldn't get over Auckland just shows that I think they were not in great shape. So yeah. Wonderful. Manu, well, I think that brings us up on time. Thank you very much. Just to clarify, everyone can get your obviously you have a podcast as well. Do you want to just give that a quick plug and show? We do the Gegenpressing podcast, Stefan Bienkowski and I. Stefan also works for Transfermarkt, does the UK side of things. I'm in charge of North America. And we have the Bundesliga Gegenpressing podcast, which has been going strong now for 8 years. It's joined your network this summer. We took a week off last week, but we're now back doing Transfer Recap show. Did the first Transfer Recap show yesterday. And that's for now behind a paywall. But we're going to go with public as the season nears. We have two main shows that are available to everyone. So, yeah. Beautiful.
Stay tuned.
Wonderful. Manu, well, thank you very much as always. Yeah, enjoy the game this evening as well. And we'll hopefully have you back on as we get through to the knockout phase and have a chance to breathe and relax.
Almost there. All right.
Take care, Manu.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.